A lot of people are very pessimistic about China's economy and financial markets right now. Others believe that China will remain the world's fastest growing economy well into the future. There have been questions raised as to whether China's downfall has started or not, and it would be interesting to see what type of impact this will have on the global economy in general, if any at all. But first, let's take a look at the problems facing China right now, why they arose in the first place, and how they might affect you if things do not change. In today's video, we are going to talk about the problems which have been weighing down the Chinese economy to the point where economists are starting to question its impact on global growth. In fact, we can see the results of all these problems in their GDP growth. The Chinese economy expanded for 9% year-on-year in the third quarter of 2021, decreasing sharply from a 7.9% growth in the previous period, and slightly missing the market prediction of 5.2%. You might be knowing two major events that impacted China's growth. First, the energy crisis, and second, the real estate crisis. Apart from these, there are a couple more which we will talk about in the later part of the video. First, let's look at the energy crisis. The energy shortage has severely impacted the manufacturing sector of China, which contributes heavily to exports. China's energy crisis had pushed the government to extend power restrictions in at least 20 provinces and regions as they struggle to cope with the power shortage. This has affected more than 66% of the country's GDP. Several companies closed their operations as millions of homes in the country faced a blackout situation. Still, even after a few months of struggle, China has not come out of this problem completely. Now, amid this power shortage, the Chinese economy is stuck with another storm, which is the real estate crisis, and the Evergrande company is at the forefront of it. The fall of Evergrande has triggered slowdown in the Chinese economy, as the real estate sector has been driving the growth of the economy for too much and for too long. We all have seen a lot of footages of ghost cities in China where many buildings are empty and nobody lives there. China is home to one of the largest number of unoccupied apartments in the world. China is far more reliant on real estate than any of these nations. The only nation that came close to China was Spain in 2008, and we all know how that bubble burst for Spain's economy. Also, many experts are comparing China's real estate investment model to the housing crisis of the United States in 2008. Both countries placed their bets on housing demand and prices going up exponentially and had made provisions for cheap credit. The only difference was the motivation. In America, banks were using subprime loans to create financial products. In China, cheap credit was ensured for developers by both state-backed financial institutions and offshore private investors. But now, after this bubble has burst in China, other countries are in fear that the fall could spread to other regions of the world like it did in the 2008-9 crisis. Now there is another problem that no one really talks about, which is the massive infrastructure spending. Yes, we always talk about how infrastructure spending is good for the economy, and all but unplanned and unnecessary spending could be dangerous. For instance, let's talk about China's massive high-speed rail transport infrastructure program. You see, in the early 2000s, the Chinese economy was expanding at an incredible rate, and many young job-seeking workers started to come to big cities in search of work. Now, for workers to travel between cities and their native place was necessary, but air and personal cars were too expensive, so the Chinese government started to plan high-speed railway projects. Plus, to save the Chinese economy from the 2008-9 financial crisis, the government used these projects as a stimulus to the economy. Infrastructure projects like these are very effective to counter economic slowdown as they created thousands of jobs, helped the local industries, and created a long-term sustainable income source. But on the other hand, there were many problems with it. First, the railway lines connecting big cities are profitable, but lines between small towns are mostly unprofitable. Still, the government pushed the expansion of rail lines for obvious political reasons, which made them unsustainable to continue their operations. Secondly, if you compare the high-speed railways to normal rail, then you will find that normal rail lines do not require a lot of money to build, and it is low maintenance as well. So tickets are also a lot cheaper, which is important for much of the labor force coming to cities. Also, normal railways could carry cargo, which could have been useful for a country that is highly dependent on the manufacturing sector. So the high-speed rail lines have just been a headache for the government. And now COVID lockdowns are making it even worse. Now, we all know how China has capitalized upon its workforce. But this demographic advantage of the country is also fading away. At the end, we can say it will be very interesting to see how China makes their way out of these problems. Only time can answer all the questions. Till then, We would love to hear your comments on this video, and if you are new to this channel, please consider subscribing. Thank you.